Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you a super easy and delicious breakfast or lunch recipe, and that is for my fried chicken and black pepper biscuits. They are so good. You're going to love them. Very easy to make. You can wrap them in parchment paper and foil and keep them in the freezer. So it's easy to warm up if you're going to take these for lunch or have them for breakfast throughout the week. Just remember to take the foil off before you put them in the microwave. So I've got all of my ingredients set out here ready to go. I've got my oven preheated to 425 degrees. I've got a skillet here with some oil in it. That is for my fried chicken. I've also got my biscuit pan here, and I've got that buttered and ready to go. So let's go over all of the ingredients and we'll get started. Okay guys, this is everything you're going to need for both recipes. Like I said, it's very easy, but it's very delicious. So we're going to start off with some cornstarch, flour. This is powdered milk. I've got 2 cups with different amounts of buttermilk in here, and this is for both recipes. I've got some salt and pepper, some baking soda, baking powder, onion powder, garlic powder, and paprika. I've got some Crisco here, and I've got my chicken. Now what I did to the chicken was just cut it in half lengthways and then cut it in half widthways, so that way each piece makes 4 pieces of chicken. So those are done and ready to go. You're also going to need some melted butter. And we're going to start off with marinating the chicken, and then we'll move on to the biscuits, and then we'll go back to the chicken, so that way everything is done and warm and ready to go. Okay guys, so we're going to start out by marinating this chicken for about 10 to 15 minutes. And all you're going to do is just add a little bit of salt to the buttermilk with some pepper. You can add as much or as little as you want. And we're just going to add in all of our chicken in here. And what this is going to do is the buttermilk is going to tenderize the chicken and make it nice and flavorful. And we're going to let these sit for about 15 to 20 minutes. Depends on how long you've got. So we're going to let these hang out. We're going to move on to the biscuits and get those in the oven. Okay, so I've got a large bowl here. I've got my little pastry cutter and a spatula, so we're ready to go on that. I've also got a 1/4 cup measure, a tablespoon, and a teaspoon over here. So we're going to start out with our flour, and you're just going to need about 2.5 cups. This is 1/2 cup measures, so we're just going to get that in there. That's 2 cups plus 1/2 cup. Now don't get rid of your flour, because this you're going to need again later. So we're just going to set this off to the side. And we're going to add in our powdered milk. You're going to need about 1/4 cup of this. And this just adds so much flavor. You can find it in the milk section where the evaporated milk is. So you're going to need about 1/4 cup of that, and it's just going to add a lot of flavor. If I can get this back on. There we go. And you're going to add some baking soda. I'm going to go in about 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and it's just going to make the biscuits nice and light and fluffy. And you're going to need some baking powder. So I'm going to get about 1 to 2 tablespoons of baking powder. And it's going to make the biscuits nice and airy. And about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And a ton of black pepper. You're going to need about a tablespoon of black pepper because these are black pepper biscuits. So I'm just going to add this in here and I'll be right back. Okay guys, so I've got all of my black pepper in there, and I've went ahead and got my little mat out. It's just for easy cleanup, and just tidied up a bit. So now I'm just going to go ahead and mix all of this together until it's well combined. That baking soda and baking powder is well combined. Okay, now we are going to go ahead and add in all of our Crisco. And you want to make sure all of your ingredients are cold. Do you have to have it cold? No, not really. As long as your buttermilk is cold, it's fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and mix this together until it's sort of crumbly. If you don't have a pastry cutter, you can use 2 forks, you can use 2 butter knives, you can use your hands. However you want to do it, just make sure that it's pretty crumbly. Now it's not going to mix into all of the flour that's in the bowl. That's fine, just as long as a majority of it's mixed in. Okay, so now what we're going to do is add in our buttermilk slowly while we stir until it comes together. You want to mix this just until everything is combined. You don't want to over mix it. There will still be a little bit of flour at the bottom, and that's fine. It's going to get mixed in when we pat it out. Okay, that looks good. So now I'm going to get a little bit of flour here and set out my little mat. This just makes it a little bit easier for me to clean it up later, and it's not stuck to my counter. I'm just going to add a little bit of flour. And just add this right to the board here. Now it's going to look crumbly. That's fine. It'll come together once you start patting it out. The flour will start absorbing all of that buttermilk. Get it all off my spatula here. Okay. And then all you're going to do is just kind of smush it together and kind of pat it and then fold it in on itself. Put a little flour on your hands so it doesn't stick. And this is all you're going to do. You're just going to pat it out, flip it over, pat it out, and you're going to keep going until you've got about 4 to 5 layers. So we're just going to flip, pat it out. Add some flour where you need it. Pat this out. And then flip it over, and then when you think you've got enough layers to what you want, then you can go ahead and stop. I'm going to do about 4 to 5 layers and just kind of shape it into little square rectangle kind of shape here as best as I can get it, because I want to make square biscuits today instead of round biscuits. You want to pat them out till it's about 1/2 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch. That looks pretty good. I'm going to shape this end here a little bit better. Okay. And now we're just going to get, you can use a butter knife. They're really easy to cut into. So you're going to make 3 cuts this way and 3 cuts this way. I like using a butter knife so that way it doesn't cut into my mat. Okay. And I've got my skillet here, and it's already been buttered, and all I'm going to do is just place these on my pan. As best as I can. And they're going to bake up and get all nice and delicious. So I've got these all on the pan, so I'm just going to butter the tops and get this cleaned up, and I will show you in my huge gigantic mess here. So all I'm going to do now is just take a little bit of melted butter, brush it on top of each of these. As liberally as I can, because we're going to put some more on the top when they get done. So you definitely want to save a little bit of butter for when they get done. So now I'm just going to pop these in the oven and let them cook for about 15 to 25 minutes depending on your oven. Each oven cooks at different temperatures, so just keep an eye on them. The top should be nice and golden brown, and they should be cooked completely through. So I'm going to put these in the oven, and I'll meet you right back here, and we'll start on the chicken. Okay guys, so I've got everything set out here for my chicken. I've got my chicken sitting there in the buttermilk, my flour. You're going to need about 1.5 to 2 cups of flour because we are going to be double dredging these. I'm going to add in about 1/4 cup of cornstarch, and it's just going to help that flour get nice and crispy. You're going to add some salt. If I can hold on to these little shakers. Okay. And some pepper. You can add as much or as little as you want. I like my food very well seasoned. Okay. Now you're just going to add in some onion powder to taste. You can add as much as little as you want. Some garlic powder. And some paprika. And this is just going to give it a little bit of a smoky flavor and some pretty color. Now if you don't like any of these seasonings, you can add whatever seasoning you like to it. It's fine, just as long as you season it really, really well. So we're just going to give this a little mix, get all the seasoning in there incorporated. Okay, looks pretty good. And I've also got a little plate here because I want to set them on here while the oil is getting hot. And I'm going to slide some of this back. We have a little bit of room. So all we're going to do now is just take your chicken and dredge it in the flour. Back into the buttermilk. Let the excess drip off, and back into the flour. That's why you want a lot of flour on this, so that way it gets a nice double coating and it gets nice and crispy when you cook it. So I'm just going to do all of my chicken, and I'll meet you back here and we'll get these frying. We'll have us some nice fried chicken biscuits. And if your fingers get a little too coated with the flour, just kind of rub it into the flour and get all of those bits off, and this will act as extra crispiness when you fry them. So I'm going to go ahead and finish these and get them frying. Okay guys, so I've got all of my chicken here. One kind of fell apart, so I've got an extra one. So I've got all of them breaded. My oil is nice and hot. All I'm going to do now is carefully put these in this oil. We're going to put them in just a few at a time, and make sure you lay them in there carefully so it doesn't splash on you. And lay them away from you so that it doesn't splash. This is the one that fell apart, so hopefully I can get those two to kind of bond together. So I'm going to cook these on both sides for about 3 to 4 minutes, and then I'll flip them over and cook them another 2 to 3 minutes until they're nice and golden brown and cooked through. My biscuits are almost done, and we'll get some butter on those. So I'm just going to cook all of my chicken. I'll meet you right back here. We'll move on to the next step. Okay, these are done and they're nice and golden brown, and they're cooked all the way through. So I've got a little sheet tray here that I've lined with a paper towel with a little rack because I want these to stay crispy. And as soon as they come off, we want to sprinkle them with a little bit of salt, just so the salt sticks. You don't need much because you don't want it to be too salty. So that is done. My biscuits are done. I went ahead and brushed them with a little bit of remaining butter. I've got all of them sitting on a platter here. I've got one left over to put my chicken in. So I'm going to get these set up. This is what they look like when they're done. So I'm going to let these cool for a few minutes and then we will put it together. Okay, so everything is done. I've got my biscuits and my chicken here all plated up, ready to go. I've got some sriracha mayo. You can use whatever you want. I just mixed up a little bit of mayo and some sriracha, a little bit of salt. And I've got my biscuit here. And I'm just going to cut this with a butter knife. Try to get it a little even. And put my chicken on top. I'm going to get a little spoon and add some of that mayo right on top. Now you don't have to add a sriracha mayo. You could do gravy. You can do some pickles. That's what it looks like.